Okay, so as you know, we're still currently in the middle of the COVID-19 pandemic. Large masses of people are not really supposed to gather, and you're not really supposed to see a whole lot of people outside of your household, wherever you live. And one industry, especially in the early stages of the pandemic, that was virtually decimated by these rules was live music and live entertainment. Because obviously, live music needs to happen to a crowd of people that cannot gather anymore. So that kind of brings up the question, how are gigging musicians and artists supposed to adapt and continue to work when you just can't play shows to people? So basically, the gig or the show has moved online. And while it's not necessarily lucrative for everybody, it's at least a way for people to keep performing during these times. So what does it look like though? There's a few different ways that this can happen. Maybe the most faithful adaptation has been the live stream, where an artist simply live streams themselves performing a concert. In Canada, we've actually been really lucky that a few cultural and artistic organizations have actually provided funding for artists to produce these live streams, one of the most notable being the National Arts Centre in Ottawa. There have been other adaptations too, though. Some bands who may not live together, who can't live stream a concert, have turned to recording remote social distance versions of their own songs. Actually, my own band, Kings of Our Kin, has done this.
Small town, broke down, Timmy boy with the frown, wanna make a beat, wanna make a new sound. And every time he plays, he hits a new crowd. Every time he plays, he hits the ground. Like.
Or some musicians have turned to filming covers or filming their own parts that they've played on previous projects or have produced.
Pull me in closer. You're a ghost, you're a thief, you're a shot of everything I need. Oh, watch your move, watch your back. We're gonna be more than just friendly.
Or you also get just spontaneous jams/collaborations that have happened through people networking on social media and that kind of thing. But now let's take a look at an actual online gig I did earlier in the pandemic. Hey, so today I'm recording and filming my cajon parts for 3 different Kings of Our Kin songs. We're doing a lot of these video online remote collaborations because we're about 1 month into the pandemic right now and we can't really do anything in person without being a threat to society. But yeah, we're doing 3 songs. We're doing Little Astronauts, Quarter to 11, and Never Looking Back. I'm going to be recording all my takes on this nice cajon here. And so I'm just getting started by setting up some microphones. What we can get out of that. I just did a quick sound check as well and everything sounds okay. So we're gonna start recording soon. Still have to figure out the video setup first. From a sociological and anthropological point of view, one of the side effects of work having moved online with video conferencing like Zoom is that the workplace has now infiltrated the home. Now, I'm not really teaching anyone anything new here, but most people who aren't self-employed or don't work as freelancers usually go to a place outside of their home to get their work done. In other words, you probably go to an office to do your job, and your home is not a workplace. But there's some interesting consequences that happen when it does become one. So for musicians, one of the first consequences of having our workplace moved online and specifically within our home is that depending on our individual living situations, we become a lot more limited with what we can work with and what we can do compared to, usually working like on a stage or in a bar, in a club, in a rehearsal space, in a recording studio. Now we're kind of limited with what we got at home. In my case, for example, I rent a condo in downtown Toronto in a big condo building. So I can't really play straight up acoustic drums and be extremely noisy without getting a bunch of noise complaints and possibly getting evicted. So to avoid that, I play on this cajon. Now, in theory, I do have access to Iduna's rehearsal space, but I am trying to practice physical and social distancing as much as possible right now, and it's probably best to just stay put rather than go there and risk spreading COVID-19 any more than I need to. So I'm going to work with what I have at my immediate disposal. Other musicians with different living situations might not be as constrained and may have more liberty. Take the example of the YouTuber Rick Beato. He's got a studio as part of his house, at least that's what I'm led to believe from watching his videos. And he can basically do what he wants, as usual. You can also take the example of one of my good friends, Sean Sasnick, who is in the same situation and owns his own studio and can also do basically whatever he wants. Limits, creatively speaking, are a good thing, but for musicians and artists who try to continue to work, these limits are really exacerbated by the pandemic. So speaking of shooting the video, usually my preference would be to just like shoot my bedroom or something. Unfortunately, with this current place, my room is way too small to try and film anything in there. So I've literally just had to set up in our living room. And that mirror is going to be an interesting element to work out. I managed to make it work in the last one by doing like a vertical view of everything. Might have to do that again, but Tom did ask me to see if I can do a landscape horizontal angle. We will see what we can do. I did a little bit of rearranging of the space and found a setup that actually gives a better picture. So I kind of put it a little bit mostly in reverse. And you can actually see here, none of the mirrors in the way, and background is all right.
How you doing? Your name doesn't matter cause I already knew it. I heard you're in town, I've seen you around, and now you're at the club cause I came to get down. Okay, I then let you go. Cause you broke my heart, you turned to stone, you left me in the cold without a home.
So I'm just about halfway through recording all these tracks, and something I kind of forgot about before jumping into this is I kind of have to translate all the parts that I usually play on drums onto the cajon, sort of on the fly. And it's not impossible, it's definitely doable, but it's a bit more mental work that I'm used to doing, or used to be doing, whatever the correct grammar is for that. My head's a little tired. And we got a bit more work to do, so we're gonna keep at it. So I've set up this ride cymbal here. I'm gonna see if I can get away with playing it really lightly using this hot rod. I think we'll be able to do it. It's not too loud.
Head on out and my mind's a hell of a guy. And I don't mean to be rude, I don't mean to cry, but it's 11:15. You know heaven, I know you don't like your men. Clean shit, okay. You wanna take
So the last but not least part of recording everything today is recording some organ, because one of our songs actually has some organ in the original recording, and we figured, well, why not?
'cause you broke my heart, you turned to stone, you left me in the cold without a home, and now I'm alone. And now you're back.
Another big side effect of the gig or the show having moved to online, and just video conference work in general, is that the home has become visible to a lot more people than before. And by extension of this, people's material conditions, meaning the type of home they can afford, their furnishings, their decor, the amount of space they have, has also become more visible to a lot of people. Another thing that's exacerbated by this is, say, the disparities between an employee's living conditions and the living conditions of their boss. So returning to that theory point, just seeing me having to set up in my own living room is kind of a good example of how the workplace has had to move online. Another thing that happens with all of that too is now the home, which is supposed to usually be a private place, has become quite a bit more public than it used to be. But why is it a big deal that everyone can see inside our houses? Well, with the same line of thinking as before, the work office is usually a pretty public space, but the home, by contrast, is usually pretty private. Now, I wouldn't say that the home has become completely public, but it's definitely not as private as it used to be. We can even bring some sociological theory to help explain this, and I think that Erving Goffman's dramaturgy does a good job at that. And it helps to explain some of that discomfort we might feel in having to telecommute. So we can think of the work office as a front stage, a place where we're expected to put on certain performances for people, while the home is like the backstage. It's that place where we can let our guard down, we can be ourselves, and we don't have to be performing for others all the time. That's what the home is supposed to be, but that's not completely the case anymore. You can kind of say that the backstage has been, or the backstage aspect of the home has been a little bit eroded by telecommuting, or also a little bit eroded by having to play shows online now instead of on an actual stage.
I thought I need a new beer, but I wanted to chat, so I came over here so you could hear me out what I'm talking about. Cause you don't need to sleep alone, but you don't have to pout. It's true, you got options to see, and I know that you could leave this bar without me. You could be eyeing that man, I would understand, but we both know that he don't really give a damn about you. So what do you say? I could call us a cab and we could be on our way. We could head on out, we could live in the now. Just say the word, babe, and we can head on out. My, he's a hell of a guy. And I don't mean to be rude, yes, I don't mean to cry, but it's 11, and you're heaven. I know you don't.
By the time this video is up, in Canada at least, we've been through various stages of reopening in the different provinces. So some people are actually starting to play live shows again. You get like the drive-in gigs, some shows are outside, or you have very low capacity indoor shows. Even with that said though, school is just around the corner, or has already started in some places, and a lot of people are saying a second wave is pretty likely. So we might just be forced to move our musical activities back online to the internet anyways. Thanks so much for watching this video. I hope that you've enjoyed getting to see some of the behind the scenes aspects of putting together a sort of social distanced performance video. And I hope that you also enjoyed my commentary on the effects of having to perform from home as a musician. Realistically, I think that we might as well get used to living in a pandemic situation, because I do think we're in this for the long run, like it or not. If you want to see more content like this, please take a second to like this video, subscribe, and hit that bell so you get notifications when I post more. Also, please let me know your thoughts on this video. Let me know what you thought. Do you agree with the fact that video conferencing is really eroding at the privacy of our homes? Do you not agree? What do you think is the future of music in the pandemic? Please do let me know. My name's Gab Levouet, and I'll see you in the next one.